goodness, I know. I hear you grumbling. Yeah. Oh, goodness. I told him them goat got you in the mouth while ago, didn't he? He did, Mom. He got me in the roof of the mouth with a damn horn. Oh, goodness. Oh, that baby boy. Oh, that baby boy. Oh, you rotten devil.
All right, guys. Welcome back. We are going to switch it up a little bit. Instead of talking about my accident, we're going to talk about a call Lee and I ran together. Lee's availability is not going to be great coming up, so I kind of wanted to take advantage of him while I could. But yes, we are both paramedics. I don't work in that capacity anymore since my accident. And years ago, we used to get to work together. We had
10 years ago, maybe? Yeah.
We had a lot of fun, and we went through a lot of
horror.
Yeah. So the call we're going to tell you about today is a well-known call in this area because it involved an officer shooting. An officer was shot during this call. And so everybody heard about that and that event and what happened with the officer, which was horrible, and luckily he lived, but it did end his career. But there was a whole other event to that never got told in the media. Nobody ever knew about it. So we're going to give you our perspective on it. Let me preface it. I'm going to put a disclaimer. If we laugh at something, it's not because we're insensitive at all. We're just not going to sit here and cry on YouTube for the whole world to see, because a lot of these things are really sad. But, you know, we're medics. We have a dark sense of humor, and we laugh sometimes at inappropriate things, but we will...
It's how you cope.
It's how we cope, but of course we're sensitive to these events, and it's not a funny story. But there may be some like funny parts. This day, we were on a truck together. We were on a double medic truck, and you have to remember too, we work in a very, well, for this call, we were working in a very rural, I can't say that word. Rural setting. The response times are extended. The transport times are extensive sometimes. But this day, we were taking a 12-lead class, wasn't it, at the fire department. And it was a room full. That's the automatic cat feeder. But the room was full of first responders. There were many other medics, EMTs.
Visitors from several places, but our entire service was there.
And in the middle of the class, Lee and I were up for the next call, and the tones dropped, and the dispatcher said, "I need you to be en route to such and such address. Baby's been shot." And I looked at everybody and I said, "Did she just say baby's been shot?" And everybody,
including me,
including him, looked at me and said, "No, she didn't say that. She said
baby's in shock."
They thought she said baby's in shock, which
is no better.
Well, but for me, when I hear baby's in shock, I immediately think new mother, baby's coughing too hard or just whatever, and it's usually no big deal because we get a lot of new moms and they panic and it's totally fine. So my head space was very different on baby in shock versus baby's been shot. But everybody, including him, said, no, it's baby's in shock. And I said, I swear, y'all, she said, baby's been shot. And they all, no, that's not what she said.
And we argued about it all the way to the truck. When I got in the truck, I put us en route, and I said, dispatch, re-advise what the nature of this call was. And we didn't hear anything.
We didn't hear anything.
Turns out back then, our dispatch center only had one dispatcher on duty at a time. Poor lady was way over her head. She was dispatching for 2 different law enforcement agencies, a fire department, and us at the same time. So she never did tell us or clarify what the call was.
She had too much other traffic going on that our traffic was getting lost, because he repeatedly was asking for clarification, and it took us, maybe 10 minutes to get there? Mm-hmm. And during that 10 minutes, I guess I had kind of talked myself down and was like, well, maybe they're right. She said baby's in shock, and it's just a panicked mom. And we pulled up, and there was a woman who didn't speak much English. Her English was very broken. And she was standing in the driveway with a red blanket. And I could just tell by the look on her face that she was concerned. And we pull up, and I was in the passenger seat, and I hop out, and she just hands me the blanket. And so I look down, and there's this child covered up with a blanket, and I opened the blanket, and it was just hamburger meat. It wasn't
as bad as it looked, but it looked horrible.
Yeah, it was. Of course, then I immediately knew that I was right. I heard it correctly, that the baby had been shot. And do you remember what kind of gun it was?
Baby was shot. It went in the forearm of one arm and out the bicep of the other, passed between him and his mother. It was an AK-47.
And if you know anything about high-powered rifles, they are weapons of war.
Mass destruction.
And they are devastating. Very big difference, somebody getting shot with a pistol versus an AK. You're talking extreme damage. And all I saw when I looked down at him was just hamburger meat. And it took me a second, and I looked up and I asked her, I said, where's the shooter? Because Lee and I showed up on this call. It was just us. There was no police officers, no help, no anything. And we've got a baby that has been obviously shot. We don't know where the shooter is. And that's like the number one thing in EMS is you don't go on scene unless you know that it's safe. And anytime there's a shooting, we always have police respond with us, and they make sure it's safe for us to continue. But this day, that didn't happen. But I asked her, my first question was, where's the shooter? I don't remember exactly what she said.
She said that he took off through the woods chasing his wife.
Didn't she say something about a black?
She said they have a black SUV and I don't see it, but they took off through the woods, and she said, I don't see the SUV now, so I don't know where he's at. She said, I'm pretty sure he killed all the rest of the family. I said, where? She said, in that trailer right there, right where we were parked. Mm-hmm. So I told you, get in the truck. You jumped back in the truck with the kid, and I took off to the far end of the trailer park. I wasn't going to back out of there real slow, and turned around at the far end. And we left there at 50, 60 miles an hour because I had no idea where it was. Well, we get out on the road, and she's bandaging and tourniqueting, picking pieces and doing what she can, and I'm running. I had already set up for a helicopter at that point, and they were 12, 15 minutes out. And then I passed a wave of blue lights. They're all going the way we just came from. And then finally, 3-4 miles from the scene, dispatcher keys up and tells us what's going on. Suspect is in a chase with police, was last seen driving a black SUV. So we're heading to our LZ, and we start to cross over Interstate Bridge, and I'm watching traffic, and I just catch a glimpse in my mirror. And there's a black SUV with its flashers on right behind us. We cross the interstate, turn in to the LZ, and he turned in right behind us. Well, luckily the place we were going has a circle drive, so I pulled in, told all the fire department, said that black SUV is right behind us. And I went on around the thing, and when I come back, they were all stopping me.
It was like a clown car, like
Yeah.
because Lee was not going to stop, so he was just.
I was fixing to run over some people, and turns out the black SUV chasing me with flasher on was another medic trying to help us.
Yeah, Lee had, so when we left the scene, he's driving and on the radio calling for help, which he never does. So when his voice came across the radio saying, hey, we need some help, we had like an army coming, and I was in the back doing what little I could for the kid. And I remember I'd heard about the black SUV, and I'm in the back, and I'm looking at the kid and out the window at this black SUV, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm going to die right here. I'm fixing to get shot. That's what I thought. In hindsight, that's not what happened. But in those few minutes, we thought that the shooter was behind us, there to finish off what he started, and it was terrifying for me. I realized
There's so much more to that story, but
Yeah.
for HIPAA reasons, we can't tell it because it would get too personal. Too many people would know. But it was truly a horror story, and
Yeah.
it did not have a happy ending either for most people. The child lived. He's a bilateral amputee, but he did
No,
live.
I think he may have. Is it
Both
both?
shoulders.
Well, I know that. All I know about the kid now, we have a friend who's a teacher, and he's in her class. So he lived. She said he's happy and doing well. That part has a happy ending. But in the trailer where we were, there were 3 deceased teenagers that had been shot. And
All brothers
yeah, and then
of his.
the suspect ended up. So what happened was he shot the people in the trailer, he shot the baby, and
Trying to shoot the mother.
and then he took off running, and the mother, who was pregnant, was running through the woods, and he was chasing her, and she actually escaped, and then he fled, which started a massive chase, and he shot an officer in another town.
In the middle of a major intersection.
And then the chase continued, and of course, when it ended, they ended him.
That was it. It did end on a positive note there.
And come to find out, I don't know how the black SUV thing came along, because according to the news articles that I remember, I don't think it was a black. I saw pictures. I don't remember it being a black
I thought
SUV.
it was, but I don't know.
I'll have to see if I can find it. But
I just know that's what we were told, and I looked up, and that's what was
Yeah.
chasing me. So. And believe it or not, for the people that do work in the field, it was not really the chaos you would expect on scene. At one point, because everyone from the class came to the LZ, of course, at one point we had 5 medics and 2 seasoned EMTs in the back of one ambulance. And believe it or not, there was no chaos. It flowed smoothly.
which was good for me, because by the time we got to the LZ, my nerves were shot. So it was good to have other people in there that could think a little more clearly than I could. But looking back, the funny part to me now is you pulling into the LZ with
Pointing, saying, that guy behind me, I'm taking off.
pointing at the guy behind us that was coming to help, and we're like doing laps in the LZ, and Lee's like, I'm not stopping.
It was only one lap, by the way.
Oh, well, it just...
the circle drive went all the way around the building. By the time we got in front of the building, they're like, no, he's with you. Okay. But we took a hot lap around the little hospital thing there.
Yeah, how fast do you think you were driving? That ain't
about as fast as you could around that circle.
No. I'm talking about on the way.
All she had, high flow diesel.
That's what I really enjoyed working. I really loved working with Lee because, not just because of the relationship, but
we had fun.
He's such a good partner, and when we were on the truck together, I knew, like, we complemented each other. The things that I'm weak in, for example, like I hate broken bones. I don't like splinting. I'm not great at it. He excels at those things, and he's an expert in extrication, ropes, high angle rescue, all that kind of stuff that I know nothing about. So that when we were together, I knew that no matter what call we responded to, we could handle it. Because,
and I can handle the scene, I'll give you the patient.
Yeah, he would handle the scene stuff, and then I would just kind of sit back until I got a patient, and it worked really well.
It's fun too.
Yeah, we had fun, and I always felt very safe with you, which I'm sure other women in EMS can sympathize with this, but some partners you just don't like. Some partners are frankly useless, and every once in a while you get a partner that just you feel safe with, and Lee was my safe space. I felt like together we could handle anything.
We handled a lot of ugly stuff.
Yeah, we did. And
especially in Anniston.
Yeah. Oh,
in the war zone.
I know what call we can talk about. We had already met each other. We were already like texting at this point. But at this other service, I was working at a private ambulance service.
I think please be very careful how you tell this.
I was working for a private ambulance service, and Lee was working for that fire department. And the way it works was the ambulances responded to all medical calls, but the fire department had certain criteria. So if it was like just a sick call, they didn't respond, but if it was like a chest pain or difficulty breathing, they would also respond. And Lee was on the rescue truck and I was on the ambulance, so we kept meeting, running calls together, and he saved my ass one day. There was a call that came in. Originally, it came in, I think, as just a sick call. Because I was at station. Yeah,
I wouldn't have been there if it come in as a sick call.
But it came in originally as a sick call because we were actually texting when the call came in, and it came in as a sick call, and I got dispatched to it, and it was at a
housing project.
Yeah, like a housing project, and a very high crime rate, lots of violent crimes. That city we worked in is known for being an extremely violent, having a high rate of violent crime. But it came in originally as a sick call, so I got dispatched. Well, en route, the call got upgraded because then it changed to a difficulty breathing call. So then he got dispatched, but I had a heads up, so me and my partner responded first.
You had about a 4-minute jump on me.
Yeah, so I go in, and there's a woman like in the back room, and she's just acting crazy, and I start asking questions because I'm trying to figure out like what's going on. And her boyfriend or husband, I don't know who he was, but how tall do you think he was? Like
5'10", 5'11".
I thought he was bigger than that.
Well, he's that much bigger than you, but no, he really wasn't.
I thought he was.
It doesn't matter how he hemmed you up, the reason it felt that way.
I thought he was a lot bigger, but to me, he was a big guy. And I get that he was worried about his wife, but I knew that she was breathing appropriately, her color was normal, she was talking, and she didn't appear short of breath, so I wasn't worried immediately about, like a life threat at that point, because those are things that we assess that you don't really know we're assessing. So I started asking questions, trying to figure out what the problem is, but he was just not having it. I guess he thought she was dying and wanted me to scoop her up.
Well, belligerence has its place in this too.
Yeah, he was very belligerent, and I'm trying to...
Like kicking cans out of the way, walking in belligerent.
Yeah, he was belligerent, but I'm trying to figure out what the problem is, and he just didn't like that I was asking questions. And the next thing I know, he had grabbed me by the neck and pinned me into the wall.
To set a picture, you entered into the front door into the living room, and then you went immediately right into the bedroom. And he was originally standing between the dresser and the bed, and there was a gap down by this wall, and she's laying in the bed. Well, she walks in and goes there, and for whatever reason, her partner chose to stay in the living room. Well, once he got upset, he comes down that trail with her and has her pinned in the corner, and she has nowhere to go. And he is towering over her, screaming at her, and I walked in and looked at her partner. I said, "Where are they at?" "They're in there. I think she needs some help." Walking around with their hands in their pockets. So I walked in there, and that's how I found them, with her hemmed up in the corner, grabbed my neck, towering over and screaming at her.
Did you have to physically pull him off of me?
No, I yelled, he jumped.
Yeah, it's crazy how people respond to a small female, how they're willing to take advantage of us, but then he walks in with his deep voice, and all he has to do is say, "Hey," do it like you.
Hey, and he let go.
He let go. And I don't know, I'm so glad that call got upgraded, because had it not changed from a sick call, Lee would have never showed up. And
her partner was not on the radio requesting PD. She was walking circles in the living room with her hands in her pockets. And hey, I think she needs some help in there.
And this is a partner who, for whatever reason, didn't like me.
Be careful. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how well you get along. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. You should always take care of each other. And in this situation, she, I guess maybe she knew the fire department was on the way, and I don't know. But anyways, my partner failed me miserably that day, and Lee saved me. And then we loaded the patient onto the stretcher, and on the way to the ambulance, loading her, with Lee standing right there, that guy again shoves me.
He walked up and just forearmed her into the door to walk up, and I grabbed him that time. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see her." I said, "Yeah, you did. You actually used your forearm on purpose. You saw her." "Oh, well, I'm sorry." And he turned around and stormed back to the apartment then. But it's just, there was no sense in it, and it's just, people do things they get away with.
And that's why at the other service Lee works at, where he's a supervisor, if he can at all help it, he doesn't allow double female trucks because of situations like that.
Not just situations like that, but being as rural as we are, if you end up in a bad spot and say, "Hey, I need help." If they were not already sending a deputy to this situation, if it declined while you're there, it's 20, 25 minutes before help gets there.
Right.
And 2 5-foot-tall women versus 1 5-foot-tall woman and 1 6-foot man, you got a little bit better chance fighting it off. And I don't want to be responsible for sending 2 women to, especially not in parts of our county that are known for extensive drug abuse, a lot of alcohol abuse and things. And it's just, please don't make me sound chauvinistic. I don't want to be responsible for that.
It's a protective thing. Like, violence in EMS is real. It's proven that a lot of these patients treat women differently.
And let me be the first to say, there's a lot of women in this field who handle themselves a lot better than I can.
Yeah.
And there's a hell of a lot better medics than I am.
Yeah.
But they're more out to get threatened than I am. Mm-hmm. And it's just, That's a fact.
Yeah. No, you're not chauvinistic. It's sweet.
Well, it's just concerning.
But there are some male partners that are just useless. But this is what we do, this conversation, to bring you into our world a little bit at shift change. There's always an ongoing shift and a shift that's leaving, and we all would hang out in the kitchen or day room or whatever and share our war stories, and this is kind of that.
If you get so-and-so address again, be prepared for this.
Right. And there was one other call I remembered last night. I was trying to, because we haven't worked together in a long time, and I was trying to think last night about calls we might could talk about, and one occurred to me that was also interesting. I don't think on this call we were on the same truck, but I don't think we were on the same, were we?
No.
Okay, so we were working at the same department and station that day, but we were on two different trucks, and we got called out to a stabbing. I guess it was my call. I
think it was you and your partner, and we were there to assist.
So again, with a stabbing, we never go on scene without police. And of course, I get on the radio and ask dispatch, is PD on scene? And she came back and said, I think she told me they were.
No. She said she wasn't sure. She checked with them, and they went by us. So we fell in behind them.
Oh, that's what it was.
And we went around that curve, and they kept going, and your partner saw everybody flagging them down, so y'all turned up in there. Well, PD has to go around and turn around and come back. Well, so both ambulances pull up in there, and now we're on scene.
But I thought I remembered, again, this is a long time ago, and I have a terrible memory, but I could swear that dispatch told me at some point the scene was secure.
I think we did hear
because
that, but I don't
go on scene without
yeah.
that. But anyways, from what I remember, I think I was told the scene was secure. So we go on scene. There's a guy laying on the ground, and he's been stabbed in the chest. And
the knife's still there.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it's sticking right there.
And I get my monitor and I start putting leads on because he's not breathing. I'm assuming he's dead. He looks dead, so I'm trying to see.
There's 5 inches of handle sticking out of his chest right at the elbow.
I'm slapping leads on, trying to see what we've got. While I'm doing this, I ask who stabbed him, and somebody pointed, or anyways, the guy.
2 or 3 different people.
The guy that stabbed him was right there.
He's standing at the top of the steps,
and I'm like,
and he said, "I did."
I'm like, oh shit! So we scoop the guy up and throw him in the ambulance. Now we just drive around the corner, and the guy's dead. He's a systole, it's traumatic arrest. We're very rural. We're 45 minutes from any hospital, and you cannot fly a patient that's in cardiac arrest. So we're calling med control to say, hey, this guy's dead. Because normally when we have somebody that's died, especially in a traumatic arrest, when we call, we tell them what we've got. And I've never had this happen any time other than this call. Every time I've called for orders for death in the field, they confirm, we call it. But not this day.
I called because it wasn't my call, so I'm back up. I'm there to help her and her partner, and my partner working real hard. So I called Med Control and said, hey, Doc, we're on scene, gave him the whole scenario, how we arrived, what we found, what was going on. So this man's got a 4 to 5 inch handle sticking out of his chest. So I'm assuming he's got a 4 to 5 inch blade in his chest, just left of the heart. I'm thinking through his aorta. So we have no signs of life, asystole, very pale, looking for death in the field. He said, you need to get him here quick as you can and start a round of epi. And I was like, okay, Doc, I want to make sure you understand. I am in extreme northern part of my county. I said the closest hospital for me is a general hospital. It's 45 minutes away. You're about an hour and 20 minutes away. Do what I said, get him here ASAP. I said, I'll get him to the hospital as fast as I can. Thank you, click. So they left and they went to the hospital. It was 45 minutes away with the dead man. Meanwhile, I get another call on the south end of the county, go down and pick that patient up, and I'm going down the interstate and my cell phone rings and I look and it's Med Control, who was calling, blessing me out, wanting to know where my stabbing victim was. I said, he's DOA at a hospital in the next state, hour and a half away. Why? Well, I've got a surgeon standing here. I thought, well, okay.
Well, he wasted his time and everybody else's time.
I'm sorry I told you everything I knew to tell you. I apologize, but he's not coming to you. He's in a bag.
I've never had Med Control.
He was quite furious with me and didn't speak to me for months because of that.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, that's just a snippet of some of the calls we've run together, and a lot of people showed interest in wanting to hear our perspective on things, and you know, just some of the crazier calls we've run. But
it's a shame that HIPAA's as bad as it is because of all the wonderful people that we work with. I know so many people that have so many stories that other people need to hear, but due to HIPAA and a few other things, they'll never get to tell their stories, and it's a shame.
yeah,
There's a lot of people, a lot of good medics that need to be heard.
and that's one benefit of me no longer being employed. I can talk more about these things. Of course, I'm not going to violate HIPAA. Like I said earlier, Lee's availability is not going to be great for a while. We've got some issues we're dealing with. I'm still in a wheelchair and I've got rehab coming up, and Lee's mom lives with us, and that's getting,
She's not doing well.
She's not doing well, and that's difficult. But anyways, I'm going to start doing like some video podcast about EMS and a lot. I've polled a lot of my medic friends, and they have a lot that they want to say, so I can be their vector, you know.
Just no, you know, I don't read a lot of comments, but just thumbing through the comments on that, most of these medics she's talking about are 10 and 20-year people. Mm-hmm. These are not new people straight out of school that have a gripe. These are seasoned people who've been doing this for a long time and really have something to say.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. Let me show you my, I dressed up for y'all. Do you know how hard it was for me to put makeup on in a wheelchair? It was awful. So I didn't dress up for you. I left my pajamas on and just put on a sweatshirt. I love these because they are racerback nightgowns, and they're cheap. They're on Amazon. I'm going to put a link in the description. I'll wear them constantly. If you're somebody like me and you're home all the time, these are great. They're cheap, comfortable. Throw a sweatshirt on when you're cold. That's all I wear, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Pretty much, unless we go somewhere.
Do you get tired of them?
Mm-mm. Don't bother me a bit, baby.
Love you.
No, you too.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye. Wave at the camera. Okay.